Witchers, welcome to the Witcher Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with Toasty, the other host, and this is normally how we do it. But this week we've got our patrons, and we recently have season 3 wrapped up for The Witcher on Netflix. And man, oh man, of course, there's a lot of opinion out there. And so we're bringing in our patrons today to talk about their opinions about the season and how they think this season actually stacks up compared to the previous ones, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And we're going to get all that information out on this episode. Toasty, I know you finished the season. I've been on vacation this last week, so I didn't actually catch the last few episodes. So I'm sure I'm going to get some stuff spoiled. But Toasty, are you ready? Are you ready to talk more Witcher season 3? We've been doing this for the last few weeks now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, he guess so. All right. Sounds good. Well, we've got with us this week Ben of Temeria, Mormon Milkman, and Genesis joining us again. Welcome back to the show, everybody. How's everybody doing? It's kind of a smaller show this week, so let's just go through and welcome each of you. Ben, how have you been, man?
I've been great.
Yeah, good. I know you've been doing new jobs and all that stuff going on in life.
All life, you know.
Yeah. So here, this will be fun. To sum up your impression of The Witcher season 3 in one word, what would the one word be?
Interesting.
Okay. All right. And Mormon's here again. Mormon Milkman, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
I've been alive. That's the least of it. So. All
right. Well, hey, that's something, I guess. Man, this is like a high energy show today. Everyone's like super excited to be here and real high on life. This is going great right from the beginning. In your estimation, or in your in a single word, how would you say season 3 of The Witcher is? How would you describe it?
How would I describe it? Well, I would just have to say the word attempted.
Attempted. Okay. Let's see where that's going. All right. And then Genesis is here again. Genesis, how's it going?
You want high energy? I can do high energy. We can go high energy tonight. Yeah, I'm having a fantastic day.
Awesome. And your voice gets higher too. So that's fun.
Yeah, no, I can't maintain that voice for too long. But no, today's actually been pretty good.
Yeah, I think that like the only place that voice would actually make sense is in like a children's cartoon. Otherwise, at some point, people would just be like, I can't listen to this episode anymore. I'm done. Nope. So what is your one word to describe season 3?
Lighter. That was one of the things that first hit me, was that I could actually see the details because they weren't trying to give it this dark overtone the whole time.
Right. So visually lighter, not like weight lighter, not like it's been so heavy. It's right. But like visually lighter. Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, who would like to kick us off? Because I want to hear, to start out with, I want to hear what let's go through in this order. Let's talk about if any of the things that you thought were good about the season. What are some things that stood out that were good to you? And then we're going to talk about what are the issues you have with the season, because obviously the show is not perfect. And then we're going to compare it to the first 2 seasons. And I want to know where it stands in your perspective compared to the first 2. So who would like to kick us off with something that they enjoyed about the season? Something they think they did well?
I would say the fight choreography was a lot better.
Oh, so you feel like it's even improved? Like this is...
Well, just with the fighting specifically, that's the main thing.
Right. The fight choreography is actually even better than the other seasons.
Because if I recall, they actually got the guy from season 1 to come back to do some of the fight choreography.
Yeah, I remember season 1 being pretty cool.
And a lot of them were a lot of the fights were good. The last 3 episodes were meh.
Okay.
For part 2 or whatever you want to call it, but from part 1 through 5, 1 through 6, 1 through 5, whatever it is,
5, yeah.
The fight scenes in that one were a lot better.
Okay, all right.
That's my opinion. Anyway.
So improvement on the fight scenes. Now, was it just the detail of the choreography? Was it the way the camera worked?
I would say all the above. I mean, from season 1 and season 2, I really felt with season 3 they learned from their mistakes. Just the opening fight scene right in episode 1 was like, oh, okay, that's where we're starting.
Yeah, Toasty wasn't a fan of that one, if I recall.
Really?
Yeah. He was like,
the effects on it were over the top and it
Well, that's
really
fair.
took away from.
That's fair. I mean, it was like video game effects from like Witcher 3.
Yeah. Yeah. And Toasty, you might want to
other
get a
than
little
that,
bit closer to
the
your
fight
mic.
Is that in a video game that works whenever the weird
There you go.
The blood gush.
yeah, it was weird.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's been a trend. We talked about this a little bit when that came up. I feel like that's been a trend lately with just adding more and more blood to the point where things become almost like cartoony or video gamey in fight scenes. It's like there's so much blood that came out of that guy's neck. It must have been all of the blood in his entire body, right? Like that kind of thing, which looks really cool. But until you actually sit there and think about it and go, yeah, that's not how that works. But yeah, I mean, that's neither here nor there. So you think the fight scenes in general improved? We've got some good fight scenes this season. All right. Who else wants to go with something they thought was positive about this season of The Witcher? Mormon?
Even though, again, because this is the opinion I have of the last two seasons as well, I just feel like everything they keep giving him, he's just doing so well. I just gotta give praise to all the actors, especially actors and actresses, especially him. What little Netflix is giving these people to work with, they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
So
What is that sound in the background? That's amazing.
What was that?
That was my phone. I'm sorry.
That's great.
I'll always praise him for his work and what he's able to do with the little they give him. If
I can take what you're saying, it's like the next step. Part of my concern with season 3 was that maybe he would start kind of phoning it in a little bit. And to what you're saying is basically he still gave it his all. He's still he's a good actor. He's somebody who commits to the role and he did the best with what they gave him in the script. And, obviously he trained for the fight scenes and he really leans into the character and continued to do that correctly throughout this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess the way it always seems is it just always seems like in between seasons, there's always just something that goes wrong that just makes us feel like they have to pretty much restart. I don't know if anybody else has the same opinion, but I just feel like every time a Witcher season was brought up of now we're working on the second one or now we're working on the third one, something just throws a wrench in the works. And yet the second and third season, they've still just been able to come in and the actors and actresses have been able to, portray a story.
Right. To make it work for their part.
Yeah. They were able to pull off the poorly written part well. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I get what you're saying.
Explain that well. I'm bad at explaining things.
No, that sounds, I feel like you're pretty spot on. I mean, I would agree. I think a lot of the actors, even when given questionable scripts, still did a good job. They still delivered the characters in very convincing and empathetic ways, or very, you felt good about the good guys, you felt bad about the bad guys, you felt conflicted about characters that were conflicted. All of that stuff still worked because the acting wasn't the problem, right?
No, yeah. So, it just all boils down to no matter what we say about the Witcher Netflix series, at least they're getting good actors. Yeah. At least they're getting actors who can portray well and do a good job. I can only imagine how quickly season 2 wouldn't have happened if they got just. And again, nothing against this specific actress, but gosh, her name. She played. You know what? Let's just stop that train of thought and continue on.
That's fine. All right. So the acting is pretty solid. Some of the casting people have had a lot of questions about because they went in different directions than people expected. But even though they went with different casting, the actors and actresses themselves were actually very good. I agree with it. Toasty, what do you think about that?
The core. We've always agreed that the core 3 have been incredible. So it's probably not going to go so great with everything changing because it changes the main character, it changes the entire chemistry of this trio that has existed. So, but
yeah, it's a big jump, and it's something that many shows don't really ever even try. It's hard to think of anything that's really pulled it off at all. I'm sure there are some examples out there, but nothing comes to mind right now.
The only one I thought is, Don Cheadle in Iron Man.
Yeah.
They changed it from the original Rhodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but both of them were good actors.
Other than that, I have no idea.
Yeah, they pulled that off well enough because good actors, right? So, Jen, let's get to you. What do you think? What stood out to you this season about The Witcher and how something that worked?
My favorite thing about a TV show is if I can remember key moments. And if they've made that moment important enough for me to remember it moving on to the next episode. Or because I don't generally sit down and watch a big bulk of shows all at once. I'll watch like an episode here, and then like several hours later, I'll watch another episode. And so I don't get a good block of time to sit down and watch.
So you're not binging like all 5 episodes in 5 hours. And yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes there's days in between it. And so if I can go and pick right back up and then remember, oh yeah, I remember this happened, then that happened, and I'm still following along with the story, I appreciate that. And so it's doing that for me. I'm remembering both key moments and little moments. So
Okay.
I like the fact that the story is easy enough to follow along.
Right. They kind of breadcrumbed it well enough. If that's a word, I don't even know if that's an expression people use for that sort of thing, but creating a breadcrumb, a little trail that you follow along with. And even if you stop paying attention to walking down the trail for a little bit, you pick back up where you were and you go, oh yeah, this is where it was. This is what happened. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I agree. I don't think I've had any issues with following anything. Toasty, do you feel like this has worked for the show so far?
Yeah. I can definitely remember specific moments.
So. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So that's some positives. Anybody else have any other positives they want to add in here? Anything else that stood out to you as like, actually, this was really cool?
I mean, the dynamic of the relationship between the main trio, after we, swept all this Yennefer drama under the rug, has felt really good. Like really compelling.
Yeah. I think that's part of the core of the story is this whole like found child, found parents kind of thing that goes on. This like found family and them working like this very unconventional family with very interesting and dynamic people from like at the extremes of this world coming together and making that work. And that part of it, I agree, still resonates. Like there's something about the way they do it that still works, even though they've changed a lot of things. I'm still emotionally invested, Jen?
I feel like season 1 was bringing all the characters together. Season 2 was showing that Geralt is dad. And now season 3 was really making Yen the mom. And so, because I was like, I didn't feel like Yen and Ciri had enough together in season 2.
Yeah. Well, and she was like, diametrically opposed in some ways in season 2. Like that was not her role at all.
Which made it feel so bad and so awkward and so this is not the way that it's supposed to go. But now we're really getting the relationship that we expected Yen and Ciri to have.
Right. All right. So that's the good stuff. Let's move on to some of our issues with season 3. And let's talk season 3 specifically. I don't want to talk issues about the entire show over the course of this, over the first 2 seasons. Let's talk about things specifically in season 3, because in season 3, we see the show develops starts at the beginning and it's trying to make some actual plot changes and narrative changes to kind of fix some of the stuff that happened in season 2. And then it moves through and it gets to the end, the 5th episode, and we get to the whole mages thing with all this subterfuge and like double speak and all of that stuff. And then we get to the end of the season. How do you feel like this season specifically has gone? What didn't they do well and what could they have improved upon? And how would you improve it? I think that's also one of the most important parts of this. Let's not just complain about a thing. Let's say, well, this is probably the better way they could have done it. Who wants to start us? Ben, I know you got opinions on this.
I do. I'm just trying to sum it up into words.
Okay.
I mean, they did well with it. I mean, like being close to the books, but like my problem with it was they kept adding in all these side characters that didn't really need to be in the story.
Right. Like they brought back characters that were introduced in the first 2 seasons and didn't have a whole lot happening in this season. It kind of just made them have stuff happen.
Yeah, they just had, oh, here's a cameo of a character from like the first 2 seasons. Or like in part 2, they brought in a character that never even existed. And like, okay, why? Like, I get the whole point of them doing their own original thing. They want to do their own story. But like to make the plot point, if you want it to be similar to the books, that's not necessary. It's just them adding more into it to where it's more work. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So unnecessary character stuff. So you would have just like trimmed that stuff out and like focused more on the core story.
Focus more on like, because season 3 is Time of Contempt is the second book of the saga. And it specifically deals with more of a Ciri, and they focus a lot more on Geralt and Yen throughout the entire season. Now, and obviously they're on both in the book, mainly Geralt, but I don't know. It just felt weird having, I mean, Yen being more of a bigger role in the story, which obviously they do because Netflix and adding more stuff for her. But I don't know, that just some of the story elements they just changed up, and like some felt too fast paced, others felt slower, and I don't know.
Okay.
I have a lot of thoughts. And it's just hard.
Can you give us one example of something that they probably got through too fast and they could have
the whole Ryan's thing?
Yeah.
Ryan, like it took like almost the entire book to deal with him. And
it takes more than that. He's still there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he doesn't get killed until the ice skating scene.
Yeah. Because that's the badass Ciri ice skating thing that hoping to see on screen, but at this point,
I don't know if
never will.
It's like it to seem like they were clearing up loose ends, like with certain things that
isn't the ice blading right? Isn't the ice skating scene? Isn't that in Lady of the Lake?
I think so. So
it's like in the one of the last books of the series.
It's there's quite
and like they killed off an important character.
I don't know if it's like because there were some things
the first 2 books.
It seemed like they were trying to like tie up loose ends so that it felt like, because obviously we're not using some in-story thing to explain why the recast. We're just letting the recast happen. We're not acknowledging it is the path they decided to go on, because there was indeed a method they could have used in the story to explain why he looks different now or whatever, but they didn't. They're just going to let it happen and just be like, we're not going to address it, which is fine, honestly. But it feels like a lot of the things they did for it was to try and be like, this was Henry Cavill's story, and these parts were part of his story, and then these parts will be part of Hemsworth's story.
So they're trying to wrap up this.
Yeah.
Do you think that also is because they weren't sure if they were going to get a season 4? Like they're planning to get a season 4. They're hoping they're going to get a season 4, but they've also known that they've been getting less viewership and less viewership. They've got.
Well, from what I've heard,
from a season 4,
it's been on hold indefinitely right now.
Yeah, that's other news.
So, but
it may have been one of those things where they were doing what you're saying they're doing, Toasty, but it also coincided with and if we don't actually get another season, at least we have I
think they were confirmed for a season 4, when season 2
was greenlit.
Yeah,
it was already greenlit while season 2 aired.
Yeah. So
So I don't know.
Which, some of these things, it feels weirder and like out of place. Like not having Ryance or whatever for later stuff is going to be weird, and see how they explain that part. But like Renfri's like little badge and like leaving that behind, like I loved that part very specifically, because I was like, that was Henry's, that was his thing. And like, they're not going to pass it on. They're going to let him keep that as part of his story. And I like that part at least. So I don't know. I guess there's.
Plus, I don't like the whole them keep doing stuff with the monolith crap. So
as somebody who hasn't seen the end of the season yet, do the monoliths come back? And
to be fair,
they don't really do. They don't. It's part of the story, but they don't really do a whole lot.
Okay,
they do and they don't.
Not in the last half.
Yeah, it shows up a little bit in the first half, and then
power of the goal is
a giant.
It's definitely a monolith, but they don't say like, "Hey, yo, that's a monolith." They get rid of Istrid just before they show that part, so he's not there. He's not blabbing his mouth about this shit all the time.
Got it. All right. Okay, so we have Ben's perspective here. Mormon Milkman, what do you think about some of the things that could have done better this season?
So I kind of have a controversial thought about season 3, mainly just because of so I'm a big fan of shows that have shows and games that have multiverses. My favorite game to play is Magic the Gathering, which is all about multiverses and all that kind of stuff. And if we go off of Nightmare of the Wolf, where there's a few things changed here and there that are really detrimental to the story, even season 1, like there's things that happen in season 1 that are just complete write-ins.
Sure.
Yeah. And I feel like during season 1, I was a lot more on the whole side of like, it's got to be exactly like the story. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. But I feel like after season 2, it got to the point where I can accept that this is a multiversal show, a possible multi-timeline universe. We got to understand that the Witcher cinematic universe is different from the books and definitely the games and all that. And now we'll get on the subject of season 3, because that's what we want to talk about. I don't quite like how strong-arming they are trying to make it exactly like the books now. It's like you had all this time to do it. Why are you doing it now when you're just going to be changing this, like with Ariane or whatever the heck
Ryance
that died? Ryance. He, supposed to be around a little longer. Why didn't you keep him long? If you're trying to be like the books now, it's too late. But why? But it's like, are you trying to, or are you not? Like,
well, I think they realize that they have to quell some of the uproar in the fandom. And so this was their attempt to make things right. I also think and this is just me speculating here, for storylines like Ryance getting wrapped up too soon, they're looking at the total number of episodes and total number of seasons they have, and they're going, we need to wrap this storyline up because we don't want to have to spend time on it in season 4. So because we're going to focus on other stuff. And they're like, the way they've plotted it out, the way they've sculpted the arcs just don't have place for certain things. And so some stuff gets wrapped up too soon, and some stuff gets just drawn out too far because they go, oh, well, we want this to be in season 2. So we need to cast that person. We need to have him in X number of episodes. And so therefore we're going to write this way. Like, there are complexities in doing a series like this, but I get what you're saying. Well, to your point, you're saying they actually swung too far back in the other direction, which now just kind of gives you whiplash. Why not just continue with the story they were telling?
I finally accepted the Witcher cinematic universe as its own thing. Now you're trying to tell me they're not.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now is like Nightmare of the Wolf in the same cinematic universe?
That raises a really interesting point. Like, for the most part, I mean, most of us have seen the Marvel movies, and we've probably seen the majority of the Marvel movies in some way, whether streaming or in the theater. And even when Iron Man came out, and we're talking like 15 years ago, there wasn't really a pushback of like, well, this isn't an actual Iron Man story. This is a different version of an Iron Man story. And then, you know, Captain America, and people weren't like, oh, well, this isn't exactly the same Captain America story that I know from the comic books. It's similar. Like, there wasn't any pushback.
There are those people out there. Their voices were just much quieter.
Yeah.
Because it was a good execution of a different story.
Right.
Whereas, like, season 2 was a bad execution
yes.
of a different
story. But even in season 1, even when most of us would say, yeah, season 1 is still pretty good, there was, like, right from the get-go, there were the people who were like, this is not my Witcher. This is absolutely not my Witcher. This is not the same. This is not what I was expecting. It needs to be one-to-one with the books. And you and I talked about this, Toasty, and we're like, for the most part, we actually liked the season. But yeah, there's differences. But like that, for some reason, that contingency, and maybe it's because we've seen Marvel stories show up multiple times already in movies and TV shows, and maybe we're used to different takes and different versions on stuff. I mean, how many different times have we seen Spider-Man out there? You know, like maybe we're just used to that, and so the fan base was like, hey, The Witcher's going to come out. I hope they do it right by the books and give us a core thing. But like another example would be the Lord of the Rings. We still don't actually have a cinematic in movie or TV show or any version of Lord of the Rings that actually matches the books. Like the version that came out in the theaters is a wonderful, well done movie, but it is a significantly different story in some very key aspects to what actually happens in the books. But most people are okay with that and think maybe Toasty's got the point of like, but they did it so well that it kind of makes it okay.
See, like I had that when Suicide Squad came out with, you know, I think it was like 2019, 2018. When did Suicide Squad come out? Not the newer one with
the original one. Like, yeah. Like, yeah, what was that, 5 or 6 years ago now? Yeah.
Yeah. But when it came out, like I was kind of against it because I saw it and I'm like, this is not what the Suicide Squad is. Like you know, when I read the comics and I remember like, wait, hold on. It's a multiversal, multi-timeline world. I guess this is fine. Other than the Joker, it was fine.
Right.
So, again, but there's always, you know, the one rotten seed in the hay bit in the silo.
Sure.
But
sure.
That's what I would have to say about season 3. Is it felt like you were in Rocky Rapids at the beginning. You finally got you finally figure out how to row, how to get your bearings, where to take your turns, where to lean. And all of a sudden, you're no longer in the rapids. You're in the middle of the Grand Canyon.
All of a sudden, they just like pick up the raft and drop it somewhere else, and you're like, where did I go? Yeah, so you got whiplash on this.
We were whitewater rafting through the Rockies. Now we're in the freaking Amazon. Why is there an anaconda in our boat?
Yeah.
Like, okay. That's what. Like, you're still water rafting. You're just you're just some ultimate being teleported you somewhere halfway across the world.
Right. I got you. All right. Yeah. Jen, I know you haven't finished the season yet. Do you have anything that sticks out from the episodes you've seen so far that you're like, this thing really just didn't work for me? And why is it Jaskier's haircut?
Yeah. The Jaskier's haircut is a big one. And then the quote peasant top that Yennefer was wearing, purple patterned while she was training Ciri to do magic.
Yeah, Honey, TJ Maxx discount. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You can only get that look by having an elastic band sewn into the top. And
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure elastic was something they've invented yet.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the visual changes, that's kind of the big sticking point for you.
Yeah. I mean, they made up for it a little bit with Jaskier being topless in a couple scenes, but not with that hair.
Okay.
Not with that hair.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like for some reason with his hair like that, maybe they changed his makeup. I mean, he always wore like eyeliner and stuff, but he looks more heavier. Gaunt now or something. There's something
about. He's a lot paler, I think.
Yeah.
It was like a weird thing. I don't know what was going on.
I'm actually sitting here in like shock and awe because I haven't given any thought to the wardrobe changes and like, you know, slight changes like that. And all of a sudden now that our good friend here pointed it out, that's all I'm going to see from now on. and I'm gonna obsess over it too.
We didn't even mention the halter top dress.
Yeah, the halter top dress.
How Geralt never wears actual Witcher armor now.
Yeah, he's just got like leather pants.
It's more of leather. Yeah, like he has a leather jacket.
Yeah,
and like not actual armor from season 2.
Right. Yeah, he had
like where'd that go?
He had some really cool armor on the previous seasons. Like that actually looked pretty cool in comparison to like the Nilfgaard ballsack armor, which was
we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. But some of the armor that Geralt wore was actually pretty cool. But yeah, he doesn't wear that in this season.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's just my eyesight, but has anyone else noticed the coloring in the Witcher's outfit and his hair dimming it down a bit in certain scenes?
He had, and this happened in previous seasons where there were certain scenes and the way they shot or like whatever wig he was wearing looked brighter or fluffier or something, and for some reason just didn't work right. And
yeah, did anyone else notice it happening a little more often, or is that just me, just specifically this season?
I don't know if I noticed it too much this season.
I wasn't paying attention to the hair. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's funny how this stuff works, though. It's like you may not notice it until all of a sudden your attention is drawn to it, and then all of a sudden that's all you can see, you know?
On the note, also with kind of on the same note or whatever, like the makeup that they put specifically on Freya Allen just does not work. Like they look like they're yassifying her, and it's not okay.
That doesn't ring a bell. Hold on.
Like she's wearing like proper contouring makeup in the desert episode.
Yeah.
And you can see it.
Right. So there's a thing, like obviously every character in the show is going to have makeup on because they're in front of a camera. Like you can't go in front of a camera without makeup and look natural, because natural faces in front of a camera look unnatural. So they have to naturify your face with makeup. Every character has it, right? But then they have to go,
face at all.
They have to in order to create what you're talking about, they have to go to extra measures to then make the face look like it has makeup on it. Which is what you're talking about, and how that just doesn't work. Like she would look like somebody who in the best case scenario, she would look like she's not wearing makeup, even though she is. But
I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate here, because I see what you're saying, but like something in the back of my head is not like, don't your eyes get like naturally sunken and hollow and almost have like an eyeshadow look if you're like extremely dehydrated in the desert for a long time?
I'm not talking about the eyes, bro. I'm talking specifically about the fact that she has perfect contouring on her cheeks.
Like this part of the face.
I thought you were talking about the eyeshadow. I'm pretty sure that's something that's supposed to naturally happen, but no, you're right.
This part.
I see it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting, man. A lot of this stuff, it's funny. Like, unless you point it out, you don't necessarily notice that it was there. So any other thoughts on specifics about things you guys didn't like and would want to improve?
And I guess it's been like a constant thing, but I just noticed it very specifically in like the last, or no, not even the last, like the 5th episode, not 5th, 6th episode. Specifically, the dialogue was so rough.
That's weird, because the dialogue in the 5th episode was very well done.
There's some like the Vilgefortz Geralt fight. Everything Vilgefortz said is like the cringiest shit I've ever heard in my fucking life, dude. Like this dude straight up blocked an attack and was like, "You like my staff?"
Right.
Yeah.
And then proceeded to like
his banter was terrible.
It was so
the entire
bad.
time. It's like, dude, just stay quiet.
Just stop talking. Yeah, and we've seen Vilgefortz fight before, right? Like,
yeah, with swords and knives.
Yeah,
and randomly has a magic staff, and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, I can now use my full potential, and it's like,
this is now my final form.
Is this an anime now?
Right.
I'm so confused.
I mean, to be entirely fair, he does use a staff in the book.
That's true. That is true.
Like that's just part of it. But like, yeah, no, it is very weird. He was like, he had like anime villain dialogue, and it does not fit.
Yeah, if you're gonna go anime, you have to go full anime and stay there the whole time. You can't just like sprinkle it in because the tonally doesn't work. Interesting. All right. Well, we have to go take a break. We got to go thank our patrons, including you guys. And we'll be back to talk about our comparison to the previous seasons and whether we think this was actually an improvement or not over season 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show. We don't have any new patrons this week to welcome, but we are thankful for all of our patrons who are here and help support the show, including those of you who have joined us this evening, and our Higher Vampires, Ben of Temeria and Jared M, who gets shout-outs every week. So thank you for being here, Ben and Jared. And also, if you would like to help the show out with a review on Apple Podcasts, then that would be amazing as well, because we'll read out 5-star reviews in the future. We don't have any new ones this week, but that's also an awesome way to help us out, and we would really appreciate it. That's all we got for this mid-break, other than patreon.com/Witcher Lorecast is where you can go to check all the stuff that we give you for helping to support the show. So go check that out, and let's move on with the rest of this episode.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
All right, we're back, friends. It is time to give us your final verdict. Do you think that season 3 was an improvement or not over season 2 or season 1 even? Where do you stand on this? Who would like to go first? Do we want to start with Ben again? Jen, do you want to chime in? What do you think? Jen, I know you've only seen part of the season, but so far, how do you feel?
So far, I think that some things have improved and some things have taken a step back. So as of episode 4, I'm leaning more towards the improved side.
Okay, so improved to season 2. Is it as good as season 1?
I don't know. I don't think so. Only because capturing the magic that was season 1 is going to be really, really difficult.
Gotcha. So as of the first 4 episodes, you're better than season 2, not quite season 1. That's where you are so far.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd love to hear your thoughts again when you get through the whole season, because see if that actually holds up or if it changes. That'll be interesting to find out. All right. Who wants to go next, Ben or Mormon? Anybody ready? we can just stare at each other. Mormon's ready to go.
So I'm kind of on the end verdict of season 1 best, season 2 probably tied, if not a little bit worse than season 3. But I will give my main jurisdiction for why the Witcher cinematic universe is failing, and that is that we have Jaskier instead of Dandelion. I know they're the same person. I just can't stand that name. We need Dandelion. I don't like the name change. I never have. I know it's a very minute thing, but I just loved the name Dandelion for that character.
Retrospect, technically that his Polish name is that's the closest you're going to get to his Polish, to his original name from the books.
But it also isn't as familiar to us. Right.
I felt like then, so again, we're going back into the whole specifics kind of thing, different universe, all that. I just feel like if anything made that character, it was the fact that he was referred to as Dandelion. And I feel like that just fit his character so well. And everybody's like, oh, it's the proper name. It's this, that. I'm like, no, he is Dandelion. I will stand by this until I die.
Yeah.
Or if you listen to the audiobook, it's the first couple books is Dandelion.
Dandelion.
Wait, hold on. I haven't listened to the audiobooks. They pronounce it Dandelion?
Dandelion is the first couple books, and then they correct it to Dandelion.
That's almost as bad as someone saying Ephraim instead of Ephraim.
The reader for the books.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
he has a really good Geralt voice.
He does. Absolutely. No, the real big thing on that is just because his name doesn't actually, the actual Polish name on Blurry doesn't actually translate to Dandelion at all. It translates to Buttercup. So,
which is a little bit even more.
That more or worse.
Yeah.
That is what it's. He is technically Buttercup and not Dandelion, but I can't remember what the reasoning was for changing it.
I think they just wanted
just translation error, right?
Yeah, it was translation error, and I think it was mainly like they wanted to something that people can relate to with his character. Being a bard and being associated to a flower would have been a lot easier.
Oh man, which flower?
A buttercup is a flower.
But
to my ears, buttercup comes across more feminine than dandelion does. Maybe
that's what you name a horse.
Part of it, or that's what you name a horse. Maybe. I mean, yeah. Either way, I don't know, but maybe there was some reasoning there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a weird obsession I've had. Like I understand like every single character has a different name they use from like Polish, German, English translations. But like, God freaking dang it, I love calling him Dandelion. Why couldn't we have him be called Dandelion? That would have. So, I don't know. That's always going to be an issue with me.
So here's a fun question, Mormon. If in season 3, all of a sudden, everyone just started calling him Dandelion, would it make it the best season for you?
For gimmick reasons, yes.
Okay, all right.
Just because it was suited just towards me.
Hey, look, we're recasting Geralt. Maybe they just start calling him Dandelion next season 2.
It would literally be like, all right, I'm going to call it the best thing just because it caters just for my own selfish reasons.
Yeah.
Screw all the other problems with it. I'm calling it the best season because I'm that selfish.
Got it. Cool. All right. Noted. Ben, what do you think?
Okay, so season 3, in my opinion, is better than season 2 because they did go more of a towards the book route of story. Mm-hmm. But season 1 is still the best because season 1 is like downright down to the short stories. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. The way that each episode felt like it actually was its own short story. And then it compiled your understanding of each of these characters over separate stories. It was so effective. It was so effective for this universe. And it also brought in more monsters.
It was confusing for people who have not read the book because the book was all out of order too. But
right. But I feel like
got to the end, it's like, oh, okay.
That gives it some depth. It gives it I like that when you have to go, okay, wait a minute. Was episode 2 actually after this other thing? Or, you got to figure it out. You got to think about it a little bit. And I feel like there's a benefit to doing that in literature. There's a reason why sometimes stories are written out of chronological order. I mean, look at freaking Pulp Fiction. That was a hit movie that made Quentin Tarantino's career. And the movie doesn't make any sense because it's completely out of order. And then you realize that and you go, oh, okay, it does make sense. If these things happen in a certain order, now it makes sense, right? But anyway, so season 3, better than season 2, not as good as season 1.
Yeah, because season 2 went a weird route and we can't all, we all went on to this before.
Got it.
Season 3 is better because it went more towards the book route as it probably should have went.
Right.
Even with they went on their weird side quest tangents throughout the season. But
yeah, they did. All right. Well, that's the consensus from our patrons. Toasty, any last thoughts on any of this before we wrap up the episode?
Well, one, I agree. Even though the once the reviews come in, they're not going to mirror that same consensus because people are hate reviewing the hell out of this season.
They were already by season 2, they were already hating it and then hate watching it. And then that became it's like the online snowball, right? This is the consensus of what the online people want. It's what the creators are doing in order to get views on YouTube or whatever. And so they're just going to push that narrative as hard as they possibly can because that's the stuff that's resonating with that part of the audience. And it's not that they're wrong about that. It's that they take it to such an extreme and then they just kind of have this hate orgy around it.
Some of these episodes are being rated lower than any episode in season 2, which is the wild part.
Yeah, right.
The series Desert episode is the lowest rated episode in the entirety of The Witcher.
Yeah. Well, it's because they're not trying to be rational and go, okay, well, let's actually compare this to the thing. They're already sold on hating it. And so now this is clearly just getting worse and worse and worse, right? It's just an emotional thing at that point. But whatever. So that's just how it goes.
I don't know if I can chime in just because the subject that Toasty brought up is actually something I really like to think about with. So again, you're talking about people hate watching it and all that, and I feel like where The Witcher isn't like the perfect place a series could be. Like if you think about like an orbit around a object, like the object they're looking for is a perfect story, and the current Witcher story is orbiting that. At some points it gets further away from it, some points it gets closer to it, and I just feel like at some point maybe this Witcher story is either going to be met perfectly with the perfect story point that has been orbiting, or it's going to get flung out into the deep reaches of space, unable to touch, and that can the good result is something like the Sonic movie. People being able to influence creators and. I get where you're going with that analogy, but that was before the movie got released that they fixed it. And I think the issue here is that we now have 3 seasons of them going off course and then now trying to course correct. I'm pretty sure we're never going to get the show that is like gets to the goal that you're talking about. The hope is that it gets closer to the goal, but I don't think we're ever fully going to get there. And that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I guess I'm just a little too hopeful with that point.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it is too late.
But yeah,
it's definitely too late, which is fine. I mean, it's too late because they treated the story so badly that they got the world's biggest Witcher fan to stop wanting to be the Witcher. There's just everything even if they were trying their best effort, and I do think that this season was a very good faith attempt at trying to correct course. But with everything that changes with changing the main person in your show, it's not going to get it's still going to go downhill. No offense to Hemsworth but it's not going to be his fault. It's just going to be just the way it is. The chemistry is going to change. The way the character's presented is going to change. And everything's just going to be going around that particular thing. And it's not going to be
too much water under the bridge at this point. It's probably the term for that. Yeah.
I will say
that's a fair point. Maybe I did overthink that. So.
I will say I did enjoy those last 3 episodes.
Okay. Well,
I actually enjoyed watching them.
Yeah.
Especially the last one. I thought the last one was actually really good.
Interesting. I'm going to enter these 3 with an open mind, try to be objective about it and see what I think, because I haven't caught the end yet. And hopefully I agree with you. We'll find out. But we got to wrap up this episode. Thank you for joining us again, patrons. Thank you for being here. And this is your opportunity to share some stuff that you've got going on. If you want to shout out some stuff and let people know how to find you and your stuff online. Ben, let's start with you. We'll go back through.
I have a lot of stuff now. So, I am one of the hosts for Holocron History, Star Wars Canon versus Legends, where we take a deep dive between the canon and Legends history of Star Wars. I am also one of the hosts for the Wizard World Lorecast, where we have a deep dive in all things of the Harry Potter universe. And you can now find me on my new show, the Final Fantasy Lorecast, where we are now taking a plunge into all things Final Fantasies in the series. And that is going to take me probably as long as my Star Wars show to actually finish, because they keep releasing more and more.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us again. And then Mormon, you got anything you want to shout out?
Mormon Milkman on the Discord. Feel free to reach out and talk about anything nerdy, Witcher, Magic, the new Remnant game that came out. Loving it. Already got close to 100 hours on it. But no, just in reality, just guy who loves the podcast. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And then Jen.
Yeah, I have two podcasts. One is Two Girls, One Ship, where we do a character deep dive each week, talking about how the relationship between those two characters work. And then recently we had Bennett Maria guest starring on a Witcher 2 episode. So if you want to learn all about Triss Marigold in the Witcher 2 game, go give that one a listen. I also have my other show with my co-hosty Toasty, where we the Cyberpunk Lorecast, where we discuss everything: the video game, the TV series, and the tabletop RPG.
Awesome. Yeah. And all of the shows that you heard mentioned, you can find links to at robotsradio.net. So if you're like, what was that show again? You want to look it up. It's an easy way to find it. And thank you again for joining us, everybody. Toasty, you got anything else you want to share before we head out?
Jen shouted out Cyberpunk Lorecast. I also do the Cyberpunk Red Live Play podcast, Cyberpunk apostrophe D, with the Fumbling for an Almighty Crit Gang.
Awesome. Yeah, go check that stuff out. Thank you for being here, everybody. And if you're looking for any of the other shows I do, any other Lorecasts, then go to robotsradio.net. You'll find my shows as well. Thanks for being here, everybody. And until next time,
stay safe on the path.
See ya next week. Thanks for tuning into the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.